When you fall, you have two choices. You can either stay down or get back up. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't always know how to get back up. That's what I'm here for. Take my hand and let's rise together. Welcome to After You've Fallen. Okay, today we're going to talk about love. More specifically, how we use the same word for far too many emotions. And because of this, we get super confused and think ridiculous thoughts sometimes. As I've researched and studied more about the many different kinds of love, it has helped me see the way that I love others, how others love me, and how destructive the miscommunication has been in my personal life. In the ancient Greek language, they separated love into 8 different words. I'm going to teach you about these while adding some nuance to some of them, given our modern understanding. Unfortunately, in society today, we basically only understand love in 2 ways, platonic and romantic. But we often underestimate the potential strength with platonic love and over-sexualize romantic love. So, I'm going to break it down so that we have so that we have a better understanding of what true love actually is. So the 8 words in Greek are, first, philotia, or love of the self. This is the healthy type of love of the self, though. I'll also discuss the difference between philotia and narcissism. Then we have eros, or sexual passion, more commonly known as lust. Then we have mania, or obsessive love. We also discuss trauma bonding in mania. Then we have ludus, or playful love. Then we have philia, or deep friendship, commonly known as brotherly love. And then we have storge, which is based on memories or unconditional familial love. And then we have pragma, or long-standing, enduring love. And then we have agape, which is selfless, unconditional love for everyone. In the Christian world, it is also known as charity. So, philotia is the love of self. Philotia is key to all other forms of love, as you cannot give what you don't have. Philotia is about having compassion for yourself, forgiving yourself, taking care of your needs, being confident in yourself and what you do, and recognizing your self-worth and having self-esteem. Self-love begins with acknowledging your responsibility for your own well-being, regardless of who you are or where you are in life. This is a type of love everyone needs to develop, as it is very important to one's well-being and is a prerequisite to healthy forms of every other love. Ways to show philotia is to create an environment that nurtures your well-being, to forgive yourself, and be graceful with yourself. Know that everyone makes mistakes, and you're a person. You're going to make mistakes. Take care of yourself like a parent would care for a child. Spend time around people who support you. Relax. Take time out from the rest of the world. It is often thought that narcissism is an extreme form of self-love. However, people with narcissistic personality disorder most commonly actually have an extremely low self-esteem. When you truly love yourself, you do not exhibit attention-seeking behaviors. They have a deep need for excessive attention and admiration because they have a distorted, inflated sense of their importance. Not their worth, but their importance. This personality disorder also involves a lack of empathy for others, which causes very troubled relationships. Unfortunately, in today's world, self-importance is ever on the rise and is very unhealthy. It is creating many people with narcissistic tendencies, even if their brains would not otherwise develop any grandiose sense of self. Common narcissistic characteristics are inflated ego, lack of empathy, a need for attention, repressed insecurities, and very few boundaries. Once again, though, I'm not saying that it's not good to love yourself. Quite the opposite, in fact. But you should try to make an impact on the world without thinking that you're going to just by existing. Next, we have eros. Eros is something that can often create narcissistic tendencies, especially in a world that is over-focused on sex. Previously, eros had usually been looked upon negatively. We tend to sexualize everything in the culture, and therefore eros, or lust, has lost much of its negative connotation. Eros is erotic, sexual, or passionate love. There are obviously times that this can be a good thing. However, if the only form of love that you feel towards a person is eros, eros becomes egotistic and conditional. It's often all about need, and it's more about the person who's feeling sexually attractive than it is about the person or thing who is the focus of that love, which becomes very objectifying. Eros is a primal love that comes as a natural instinct for most people. It's a passionate love displayed through physical affection. These romantic behaviors include, but are not limited to, hugging, kissing, and sex. This love is a desire for another person's physical body. If not paired with another form of love, this type of love can be very harmful and malicious. But if it's coupled with other forms of love, which we'll continue to discuss, it can be one of the most all-consuming words to describe your love for your partner. Ways to show eros are admiring someone's physical body, physical touch such as hugging or kissing, and romantic affection. Let's talk about one more kind of love that is not a good type of love. That's mania. There are 3 different types of mania. Usually one felt by someone driven by too much eros, one felt by people in a codependent relationship, and one with another sort of trauma within the relationship. Continuing with the discussion about eros, if someone has far too much eros for someone else without any sense of ludus, we'll talk about that one next, but it's playful love. They can develop mania. That's to say that, like, if someone just like only wants their body, only wants sex, whatever, then, and that's it, then they can develop mania. I actually have recent experience with this kind of person in my life. All he ever wanted was sex from me. He was extremely jealous and obsessive, and he hated that I would not allow him to control me. Then there is codependency. As a teenager, I could not understand how codependency could be a bad thing if you both wanted each other. Codependency is very unhealthy because it drives a person to desperately need their partner in order to find any sense of self-value. This form of mania deprives any sense of philassia, which again is vital to a healthy life. Finally, we have mania that comes as a result of a trauma bond. Trauma bonding is a psychological response to abuse. It occurs when the abused person forms an unhealthy bond with the person who abuses them. This is something difficult for many people to understand. Why would a woman stay with her husband that beats her constantly? Well, there are many possible answers to this question. A past history of abuse or exposure to it can make trauma bonds more likely. It is often common that the abuser has belittled the victim to the point that they feel like they have no identity without the abuser. They may feel like no one else could ever love them or that they can help the abuser. No matter what the case is, they feel desperate to keep the relationship going. However, there is not always fault at one person or the other's feet. I have been trauma bonded to many different people because of the relationship trauma I suffered following my accident. Abandonment is a huge issue for me, so it is not uncommon for me to form trauma bonds with someone who has done nothing wrong towards me. I have also been on the other side of a trauma bond with someone who had extreme attachment issues. She had experienced trauma previously in her life, so she trauma bonded to me when I showed her compassion. Unfortunately, because of the harmful nature of trauma bonds and just mania in general, that friend left. There is a cycle for manipulative behavior that will likely cause a trauma bond for someone who is to blame. However, this cycle in order is as follows. First, you have love bombing. This is where they shower you with love and affection without having you have any sort of responsibility for deserving any of that kind of love and affection. They just give it to you. Then there's trust and dependency, and that feels totally healthy. But then you start to receive responsibility, but it's only for their happiness. That's where criticism comes in, because then the responsibility is all just, oh, well, you did this and it makes me very unhappy and all of those kind of things. And then there's gaslighting and manipulation. And it's where they gaslight you by manipulating you through psychological means into questioning your own sanity, and to the point that you just give up control, and then you lose yourself, and then you're just addicted to that entire cycle. You may not even know how deep you are in this cycle until it's too late. It's painful while you're in it, but even imagining yourself out of it can be even more painful. And then when they suddenly break it off, it hurts even more than you can imagine. And I know that one from experience too. Ways to avoid mania are to recognize obsessive or possessive behavior before acting upon it, watch for signs of sudden, immediate infatuation, and to make sure that you are not putting someone else's needs above your own. Remember Philasha. Next, let's talk about ludus, or the playful love. Ludus is most abundant in the beginning of an intimate relationship. If you've heard of twitterpation before, that's ludus. It's that initial feeling of young love. It's the butterflies in your stomach, the giddiness you feel when you see your loved one walk through the door, and the feeling of never wanting to be without them. It's the fun of flirting, the focus on fun in the honeymoon phase. Ludus is typically known as a non-committal type of love. It is generally associated with flings. It can involve activities such as teasing, dancing, laughter, or more overt flirtation and seduction. The focus is on fun and sometimes also on conquest with no strings attached. Studies show that when people are experiencing this type of love, their brain is acting much like it does if it was on cocaine. In other words, your brain is lit up and active just like someone who is literally high on a drug. It makes you feel alive and excited about life. This is clearly not only something experienced in uncommitted relationships, nor only at the beginning of a relationship. In fact, older couples who strive for this love find a more rewarding relationship. Ways to show ludus are to flirt and engage in whimsical conversation, to spend time together to laugh and have fun, and exemplify childhood fun together. For example, in high school, I created a childlike date where we finger painted, blew bubbles, etc. It was so much fun. Next, let's talk about philia. Philia is an ancient Greek term used to describe the type of love associated with a strong friendship. Philia can be described as feelings of affection for a close friend. It is sometimes described as brotherly love. This term describes platonic love rather than romantic feelings, so it's an ideal word to describe a good friendship. Philia is characterized by familiarity, closeness, understanding, and soul-to-soul bonds. It's encouraging, kind, and authentic, the stuff from which great friendship is made, regardless of whether it's with a platonic best friend or a romantic partner. This love is also based in goodwill or wanting what's best for the other person. This love is viewed very highly because it occurs when people view themselves as equals, often with the same values and respect for one another. Ways to show philia is to engage in deep conversation with a friend, be open and trustworthy, be supportive in hard times, and show up for them when they need you. Then we have storge. Technically, it's pronounced storge, but I'm going to pronounce it storge. Storge is the protective, kinship-based love you likely experience with family members. You might love your sister, even if you don't like her, for instance, and you might love your dad, despite the mistakes he made in raising you. Storge is the love shared between family members and sometimes close friends. It differs from philia in the way that it's reinforced by blood, early memories, and familiarity. It's an infinite love built upon acceptance and deep emotional connection. Storge is naturally occurring love rooted in parents and children, as well as best friends. It's an infinite love built upon acceptance and deep emotional connection. This love comes easily and immediately in healthy parent and child relationships. Ways to show storge are to create lasting memories, quickly forgive harmful actions, share memorable and impactful moments. Next, we have pragma. Pragma is the ancient Greek term that refers to committed long-term romantic relationships or enduring love. This is the kind of love experienced by partners who are in a strong relationship that will stand the test of time. Think of old married couples that have been together for 60 years and still love holding hands. Partners who share pragma will work through problems with an eye towards a shared future together. They are patient with one another, show kindness, and are willing to compromise. It's an everlasting love between a couple that chooses to put equal effort into one another and their relationship. Commitment and dedication are required to reach pragma. Instead of falling in love, you are standing in love with the partner you want by your side indefinitely. Pragma is pragmatic, practical, and mutually beneficial. Pragma is a unique, bonded love that matures over many years. Pragma is love built on commitment, understanding, and long-term best interests, like building a family. Over time, eros can turn into pragma as a couple grows to honor, respect, and cherish each other, accepting of differences and learning to compromise, or including different kinds of loves. It is everlasting love rooted in romantic feelings and companionship. Ways to show pragma are to continue to strengthen the bond of long-term relationships. Respect one another's needs and desires. Seek and show effort with your partner. Compromise. Choose to work with your partner forever. Finally, we have agape. Agape is perhaps the highest form of love. This is an altruistic, selfless, unconditional love. The Greeks thought that it was quite radical, perhaps because so few people seem capable of feeling it long term. Some people would describe agape as a type of spiritual love. For instance, Christians believe that Jesus exhibited this kind of love for all humans. He was selfless and sacrificed himself so that others could be rid of their sins. He suffered for the happiness of others. This is commonly known as charity. Christians also believe God's love to be agape and their love for him to be agape as well. Agape is an empathetic, compassionate love felt for all humankind. It is given without any expectation of receiving anything in return. In my belief, if you truly have agape, you have a spiritual gift from God. Someone who has agape has the following characteristics. They are very quick to love, very quick to forgive, and very quick to sacrifice for others. Ways to show agape are to dedicate your life to improving the lives of others while maintaining philassia, which is self-love. To stay conscious of your actions for the good of humankind, and to offer your time and charity to someone in need. It's important to remember that each relationship that you have are most likely going to be made up of many different kinds of love. And while agape is viewed as the highest form of love, philassia is a vital part in each and every other form of love. Then we have the 5 love languages. These are how each of us give and receive love. It's different for different people, but they allegedly all fall into 5 categories. It is often the case that you receive love differently than the way that you show love. But here are the 5 categories. First is words of affirmation. Some people want to hear, "I love you," or other positive compliments from their partner. And if they don't hear it, then they might feel unloved. Second one is acts of service. Doing nice things for other people is called an act of service. Whether it's changing someone's oil, cleaning the house, or giving them a back rub, doing things to help make the other person happy is what this one is all about. Number 3 is receiving gifts. Some people value giving and receiving gifts, and some do not. So if you measure your partner's love by how many gifts you are given, then your love language is receiving gifts. 4 is quality time. Other people measure the quality of their love by how much time their significant other wants to spend with them. If they don't get enough together time, then they might feel unloved. 5. Finally, we have physical touch. Some individuals associate love with physical touch. Anything from hand-holding to cuddling and even sex count as physical touch. You can take a test online to see which you fall into if you are interested. I hope that after listening to this podcast, you have gained a greater appreciation for the different ways that you both love other people and love yourself. What kinds of love do you need to work on strengthening? Is your philasha, or self-love, struggling? Is your eros, sexual, a little too high? Is your philia, or brotherly love, needing a boost? Do you show love via acts of service, but feel love through words of affirmation? Is there someone you need to communicate your love language with? Thanks for listening. I wish you the most loving life. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to email any questions that you have that you want me to answer to afteryou'vefallen@gmail.com. That is afteryou'vefallen, without an apostrophe, @gmail.com.